Welcome back to another Stock Market Open live stream. Wow, it's been a pretty crazy weekend, and here we are, back to a Monday. Stock market's going to be open in about an hour and 4 minutes, at the same time as we've got some talking to do about what's going on in the market. So, first thing that we noticed over the weekend is obviously Bitcoin started moving up quite a bit. If we zoom out a little bit here, we've got some of our lines getting touched and hit. So we had suspicions that Bitcoin was going to go to 58,000 and ended up going well under 58,000, went all the way to about 53,000. And now it's sitting above the 61.7 line again. Pretty popular line that Bitcoin's been playing with. 61.7 got rejected over here in that 63 range. Pretty early though. 63.8 is where the line is. Got rejected pretty early, but I wouldn't be surprised if we retest that later today. So we'll see how Bitcoin moves, but markets broadly seem to be excited about the survival of Donald Trump and the assassination attempt. A lot of folks see a Trump presidency as potentially signaling lower taxes, greater profits for companies, maybe higher tariffs, but tariffs that won't necessarily lead to inflation, and really overall good for the economy. That doesn't necessarily mean that'll be true. It's just expectations. So that might be why markets are moving a bit. You have the yield curve moving a bit as well. For a moment there, wonder if it's still holding up. It looked like the 2-year and the 30-year disinverted. Let's see here. The 2-year right now, or the 30-year rather, is at 4.46, and the 2-year is at 4.45. So yeah, the 230 has disinverted, and then the 210s is only about, let's see here, 10-year right now is 4.23, 2-year 4.457, call it about 22.7 basis points apart. So you've got a pretty strong steepening of the yield curve. And let's take a look here. I think this is going to be one of the steepest levels that we've hit since, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, we've been steeper before. We were actually steeper in January of 24, in October of 23, and let's go back a little further. Those were the only other 2 times we were this steep. So this might actually be the time that we can finally break out of inversion and disinvert on the 2s, 10s. But again, it sounds off. Oh, really? Again? I hate that crap. All right, let's fix it. There we go. Hopefully that's better for you. Hopefully you were able to hear the sound. Okay, hold on. Let's see what we get here.
What's on tap?
Yeah, no, we're definitely looking for the July Empire, and of course, everybody's monitoring the long-dated treasuries as their yields move higher, whether it's 2s to 10s, minus 22, the least inverted in 6 months, or 2s to 30s. 30s now trading slightly above 2s. That's also a 6-month event, going back actually to February. The 2s, 10s go back to January. The main reason is more focus on the election, of course, after the horrific incident over the weekend. Here we go. Empire hitting the wires, minus 6.6. We're expecting minus 7.6. Minus 6.6 actually is the least negative number that we've had going back to last month when it was minus 6. We haven't had a positive number here since November of last year. Every number this year, except for, well, actually every number this year has been negative. So we want to continue to monitor. I'll get back to that yield curve as you look at the charts. The fact that longer dated treasury yields are moving higher does focus on the notion that we're going to be talking a whole lot more about debt and deficits in the election, the campaign, and, of course, many of the conventions as we pick candidates. All of that is going to draw focus, and maybe more of a focus now that we're going to take some of that negative rhetoric, potentially keep our fingers crossed out of the campaign, and actually focus on issues and policies. When was the last time
Yeah, right.
Biden was talking policy? I would like to talk policy. And I think this new refocusing is going to definitely put debt and deficits front and center. I would not be surprised to see 210s go positive, move another 22 basis points before the election actually occurs, maybe before the end of the month occurs. Becky, back to you.
Okay, Rick, thank you. When we come back this morning, an interview with former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Next.
Yeah, all right. So there was Empire Manufacturing, a little weak again. Again, that one's been coming in weak for a while. And then, of course, we heard the same thing that we talked about with the inversion getting closer to disinverting after the news this weekend. So let's take a look at how some things are moving in the pre-market. We've got Enphase actually giving up a little bit of its gains over here. You can see we lost that 119 line right in pre-market there, and climbing back up to 113. This is a really, really common trading range. I don't know what it is, but it seems like it always wants to bounce between these. So if you don't have these lines drawn yet, you may as well. 113.40 to 119.05. Very, very common trading range for Enphase. Obviously moving up quite a bit. You've got Apple now up 2% in the pre-market. That's a pretty big move for Apple. In fact, I think, yeah, this is going to be the all-time high for Apple if this is where we end up opening for Apple. So that's a big one for Apple. Russell's moving about 80 basis points, which is about twice as much as the NASDAQ. So you're actually still getting somewhat of that that rotation over to the small caps. Tesla out of nowhere up 415. And take a look at the move on the lines here, sitting right there at that 258 line. Pretty important one there for Tesla. Etsy's up about 81 basis points. Bitcoin, obviously, we touched on moving up a bit. Open Doors up about 4%. Robinhood 3%. GameStop's down about 27 basis points. Supermicro up about 3. Where's Nvidia then? Let's take a peek here. Let's jump into Nvidia. Also up about 1.4. Most things up pretty decently here. Not a lot that's really down. And then if you jump into DJT, then you'll really see some entertainment. DJT is up 46%. It was up as much as 50%. Following the shooting and the opening of DJT. Wow. Okay, so let's now explore and see what the suits are up to. Let's see what financial media in general is up to. Okay, there were some pieces I was reading this weekend that were somewhat entertaining, so let's take a look at those. Okie dokie. Oh, yes. This was a good one. So, this is something we've talked about before. This idea that lowering or falling inflation could eventually hurt what you end up finding with profit growth at companies. And in that if profit growth slows to a standstill, there is a likelihood that corporates will aggressively cut costs, forcing unemployment higher. Now, this is obviously the bear argument of disinflation. It's the bear argument also of deflation. It's that ultimately you end up getting joblessness, which is not fantastic. And let's see what else they have. In our view, there's too much focus on the Fed's inflation goal, looming Trump victory, and risk of clean sweep or even divided government. In a recession, rightly makes investors concerned about how to trade the Fed's easing. Right, essentially arguing like, what do you do if the Fed goes too far? They're not too worried about tariffs, and they personally prefer a September rate cut to give the Federal Reserve some more flexibility. But then they really go into this detail here where they suggest, hey, profit margins are starting to collapse, and profit margin growth, rather, is starting to collapse. And so they start sort of modeling some of these numbers. And one of the favorite charts that I enjoyed looking at is this right here. You actually find that this is a little bit of a tricky one, but it's basically as profit margins go down, which you could see right here on this right side. Let's draw it here. On this right side, profit margins are going down. And then the unemployment rate or layoff rate goes up. As you can see, this level's going up right here. And when you lay those over each other, you can see how correlated they are. So in other words, that tightening of margins likely lead to joblessness, which that's probably the biggest risk of a potential recession. It's one I was worried about last week as well. It seems like fortunately we got a stabilization in markets, because I really don't think it'll take much. I think the markets are going to be very sensitive. And so, unfortunately, once unemployment begins, it'll likely be very rapid, which is unfortunate because it also means the deterioration in stocks could also be very rapid. That's the bear argument. Right now, it doesn't seem like this is something we have to worry about this week. It seems like we're going into this week quite bullish and optimistic, and the idea is, hey, calls. Makes sense. Market is broadly moving up in anticipation of rate cuts, but this is an interesting thesis. The charts below show the rolling betas of profit margins, growth to the inflation and cost components. Betas are rolling over a 5-year period. Quite interesting to see that the jump in profits was clearly positively correlated with the beta on core services inflation increasing as service inflation accelerated. Basically, as your deviation from the market and your outperformance went up, so did services inflation. So your ability to raise prices and people to pay it basically led, I'll write this down, ability to raise prices above market expectations via services inflation led to outperformance of stock. Back in the day, I called this faux pricing power. Faux pricing power to me were really non-pricing power stocks being able to raise prices because everyone was willing to pay. So faux PP is something that I've warned about for a long time. McDonald's was one of those that I really thought had faux PP, and now you're kind of seeing it. There's a lot of talk now about Nike. A lot of people are like, oh, you should be buying the dip on Nike and that. Curious to see what folks' reactions are on that one. I haven't done a super deep dive on Nike. I just know they had a pretty wild valuation because there was a lot of growth in their digital marketplace, which has now substantially slowed in competition with Amazon and otherwise. So, Powell declined in testimony to distinguish how much inflation was supply-driven, but let's see. This inflation helps to define stagnation, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Labor market, for sure in better balance. Looks poised to weaken further. Let's see here. Early beginnings of layoffs rising. Job creations focused on the government and post-COVID catch-up sectors like education and health. Yeah, and in that I wonder how quickly, if they say how quickly they think that could lead to an oopsie-doopsie. Let's do the curve. No. Bottom line, yeah, here we go. Tariffs. I already kind of read their tariff part. It wasn't that interesting. Bottom line. Yeah, no, this all goes into tariffs. Okay, yeah, no problem. So, anyway, it was really interesting because it does sort of reiterate that there is also a downside to this disinflation, and it really is just company profit margins that end up getting whacked, which the issue of that is, when does that cause more unemployment? We've already seen the unemployment claims numbers rise, and already started seeing a rotation from leisure and hospitality and construction jobs to more just government and healthcare, late cycle jobs, also known as acyclical jobs. Okay, so with that, let's take another peek over here. Get rid of this little banner over there. There we go. And let's see. Biggest mover here, Trump Media Group at 46%. Interesting. 14% move on 23andMe. My goodness. Let me see if there's any news on that one. I don't think there is, but let's find out. 23andMe. Oops. Let's see what we got here. Nope. No news on 23andMe. So what you probably have here is you probably have a company that is seen as an acquisition target, and there's this motivation right now to pick up on small cap stocks, and so this rotation towards the smalls has really been broad. That's sort of like, okay, you're small, you go up. So, I find that very interesting. Let's listen in here for a moment.
For a partial spinoff of the TV station, they got $600 million.
They're back to Paramount. Gosh, they really love talking about Paramount. What is CNBC? Does CNBC have any relation at all to Paramount? Because I feel like every time I go over there, every single day they talk about Paramount. Let's see here. No. Paramount, formerly Viacom. Paramount owns its own network of news and entertainment channels, including CBS. Interesting. I see. Whereas CNBC is NBC Universal. Got it. Oh well. The title's totally wrong. Oh, that's funny. Thank you for that. Yeah, I didn't know that. My bad. Well, whatever. I will have to relaunch that on X. I don't know that it really matters. I'll do it really quick. There we go. And then I'll change the title over here. Thank you for that. Oh, I thought the title felt oddly short. Okay. Stock. There we go. I haven't done that one before. July. That's funny. Okay. There we go. Problem mostly solved. Okay, good. So a few things that we were just talking about. Number one, obviously, DJT is up about 45% in the pre-market. Number two, a lot more murmuring going on about the potential for really this disinflationary movement we're seeing to really flush out the companies with what I call faux pricing power, which is a way of saying that companies that Macy's just terminated a deal with Arkhouse. Let me see, Macy's. Oh, down 12% after that. Ouch. Anyway, so as disinflation continues occurring, you get a lack of pricing power, or faux pricing power, as I call it, the companies that really just relied on inflation. And those stocks are really going to see the most suffering I think a good example of that has been McDonald's. I didn't short this one, but I sort of predicted for a while that these companies would stop running as soon as that pricing power wore off. And we're finally starting to see that here on the week chart, a little bit of sort of the McDonald's golden arches here. But I suspect that might continue at a company like McDonald's. There are plenty others as well that don't have great pricing power, and we'll see how Wingstop's able to hold up. You've finally got a little bit of topping there on Wingstop. I'm not the biggest fan of Wingstop. I don't think their food's that good either. Chipotle, yeah, look at that. You've also seen somewhat of a decline on Chipotle, really since the split. Right about since the split, you've really seen this rotation down. And one of the issues you're finding too with just the food sector is people are moving away from going to these restaurants as often, and so as a result, they are not paying as much for food on a monthly basis, right? So don't think about it as when you go to a restaurant, your bill is lower. Think about it, how much are you spending at restaurants on a monthly basis? And that number is starting to roll over. Amazon, having trouble really getting back to 200. Really got rejected at 200 and didn't really want to go higher. Again, Bitcoin's almost at 63. Nice recovery off of that 58 level. We actually broke through. And then Ubiquity's really been kicking butt. Here's a small cap that I really like. I've increased my exposure to it. Actually, sort of in this mess right here, I increased my exposure a bit. But this is another small that I love paying attention to. I think there's a shot at this going back to $300. The options chain doesn't exist, though. So a little unfortunate if you're trying to play a swing there. Palantir, 28.50 in pre-market. Nice. Super Micro, back 3.5% right here. Nice. Let's see here. Wow, this one keeps moving, huh? EOS. I don't think it's had a red day, has it? No, not really. Sort of just keeps chugging along. Small cap here. Well, it makes sense in the small cap rotation. All right. 23andMe. Yeah, that's now 23andMe. The last few days here has really been starting to run, which is interesting as well. I actually really like that company. I don't know what happened with their profitability though. It just went up poop. Oh well, let's listen in over here for a moment. Right. Yeah, there we go.
We're slowly getting away from the actual event, Mr. Speaker, and maybe there is some positive things, as it happens sometimes, that could come out.
Kevin McCarthy, here we go.
You've already weighed in, and you kind of got grilled on January 6th and the rhetoric that led up to that. And we know full well that it's a heated environment. President Trump, they used to be lock her up, all that kind of stuff that takes us to a certain place. But neither side is blameless. And I retweeted this out from Ian Al-Hersey over the week. I thought this succinctly sort of described what President Trump had to put up with. Here's the quote, that the argument that Trump posed a Hitler-level threat to American democracy can be traced back to the first outbreak of TDS among left-leaning journalists in 2016. What made the argument so malignant was that it justified all means possible to disrupt the presidency, and it goes on from there. But a lot of that platform was almost adopted by President Biden in terms of how he was going to campaign for this next election. We need to bring it down on both sides. You agree with that?
I agree 100%. Both sides need to pull back. But I'd also say not just the candidates. Candidates use that rhetoric because it works in campaigns, a negative campaign. I think all of us as Americans hated what we saw happen this week, an attack on whether you support President Trump or not, but actually killing somebody in an audience because they went to participate on something they believed in. But President Trump came very close to being killed. But you could have Paul Pelosi. You could have Giffords, who was hurt. You could have Steve Scalise. I personally have somebody that tried to kill my son waiting for trial. He was in jail prior. He tried to kill President Bush before. I mean, this is, when the rhetoric rises all the way around, it becomes a real problem. And I think everybody should take a moment that somebody could have a different opinion of you. Let's respect that. That doesn't mean they're less American. That doesn't mean anything else. But the uniqueness of America is our ability to have a debate. And I think we just have taken it a little too far, that everybody should take a deep breath and everybody should look within themselves. There's enough blame to go around for everyone. But you raised a lot of those, and even Biden saying a bullseye 2 weeks ago. That type of stuff should pull back. Respect the differences of opinion and have the debate, and let's talk about issues, because there is a real contrast in this campaign of the direction that America can go based upon where you vote.
I mean, there's still time to talk about issues, Mr. Speaker, but that's been...
There's a lot of time left.
But that hasn't been what we have been focusing on, which is probably what more Americans are more concerned with or would like to talk about.
Yeah, and what we should really think about, our whole design of government is you got to have compromise. You don't change your principles, but you're going to have compromise. I mean, if you take your viewers, every day they're making a business agreement or a business deal where they want both sides to win. In politics today, we think if you come to an agreement, one side has to win, but the other side has to be destroyed. That's not the case. If America wins, both sides can win at the same time by keeping your principles. And I think looking at that, having that discussion going forward, be much more positive. I think both campaigns are going to do this. I mean, I'm looking at President Biden resetting his campaign. That was only the third Oval Office address. It took him 10 days before he addressed the nation. It wasn't Oval Office with October 7th hit, right? So this is a moment in time. You're not going to have any more Democrats come out and say he shouldn't be the nominee. So we know this is going to be a race between President Trump and President Biden. We know there's a great...
Oh, he thinks it's over now that Trump or Biden might drop out. Interesting.
...and inflation when it comes to foreign policy. And that's the debate we should be talking about. That's the debate we should have. And you could have difference of opinion on that, but you can respect the person's position and see if you can win the case.
Can you give us any insider color on what you expect former President Trump to talk about? And whether the speech was really was ripped up, the previous one, and that a not come to Jesus moment, but some type of when you go through something like that, I could definitely see he could appeal for unity. Do you know whether that, if you talked to him, or do you expect him to?
I talked to him yesterday. I think you talked to him a little bit after me. I mean, think about it. It's less than an inch from coming from his entire life and seeing somebody who lost their life sitting in that rally. I mean, he cares about all that. But the other thing you really look at is, how would you handle a situation like that? I mean, the sheer leadership of what he's shown of taking that moment and not looking at himself, but looking for the rest of the crowd is important. But I think what you're going to have, these conventions usually raise the temperature on both sides because you really want to make that case. You got just your party around and you're getting the fever. I think that is going to be pulled back some. I think President Trump is President Trump. I mean, yesterday when I talked to him, even though he has this life experience, just the way he was able to do it. I mean, what he did to me, he says, he's talking about the ear and what he's learning about, that there's more blood within the ear. And he goes, Kevin, you'll understand this because you got big, beautiful ears,
Yeah, and he did. Because I didn't know the ear really, but if anything's going to bleed, it's going to be the ear. I know, I heard that. And that is true, though. There's a lot of vascularity into the ear. It bleeds like crazy. Yeah,
but the other thing, too, is he heard the bullet. I mean, he heard it coming after you, watched it. And I mean, that is life-changing. But I think the reflection of what he has, I think the tone may be a little different. But he has been very direct in what he wants to do in securing the border. We've watched what he did in the job 4 years ago, right? And I think he's better prepared for the job now. We've watched this campaign be more disciplined. We've watched how he's been able to handle this. So I think you will get it better.
You're always so busy. You always got, places to go, people to see. But do you think it's going to be President Biden will definitely be the nominee when it's all said and done?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
1,000%. I think President Biden's going to use this to reset his campaign. Pull the ads off, do a Oval Office address. He's been in office for 4 years, and this is only the third one. take this moment in time. There's not one Democrat that's come out after this. I don't see where they can go. There's only so many weeks before the convention. He's locked the nomination down. But now they're in a weaker position. Democrats themselves had fought among themselves, weakening him. But the other thing, too, is America has lowered their expectation of President Biden. So they think he did a really good job in the speech last night because he only messed up a little bit. He still has another debate to go. We want to make sure there's still a long time with this campaign, and people will have a certain emotion right now, but will they have that same emotion 2 weeks out before the election? That's the real question, and that's not just for the candidates, that's for all of us as Americans.
Very good, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate it. You got to run, we got to run, but thanks for your time this morning. Coming up, we're going to check futures and get you ready.
Wow, interesting. Okay, well, there's Kevin McCarthy. It's an interesting thesis. It's this idea that First Solar's moving down as well. Something interesting happening there in the solar space. It's an interesting thesis that maybe there'll be less talk now about replacing Biden with essentially after what happened to Trump there. Interesting. Okay, so energy stocks might actually be falling solely because of the higher likelihood of a Trump presidency. Probably because you'd be looking at fewer subsidies, maybe for the energy sector. But that it doesn't seem to be applying to Tesla. Tesla seems to be doing just fine here in the pre-market, even with Donald Trump or what's his name, Elon Musk's endorsement of Elon Musk, which initially you'd notice when there was some political polarization, you would actually end up finding Tesla stock suffer a bit following polarizing comments. Not today. Now it's almost like that's not the polarizing view anymore. If anything, it's just sort of like this convinced reality now that oh yes, markets are going to price in a Trump victory. Let's take a look at the predicted polls and find out how Kamala's moving. So let's jump here. Kamala. Yeah, how interesting. The odds of a Kamala after that shooting have flipped. Holy smokes. Look at that. They were tied on July 11th. The shooting was on the 13th. You did have a little bit of a spread there on the 12th, but it just exploded on the 13th. Let me go to the 7-day here. Yeah, you really exploded on the 13th and the 14th here. Yesterday, Biden gave that Oval Office address, which apparently was pre-recorded, and he still screwed it up. My favorite part, though, was former Trump. Yes, not former president, just former Trump. That was probably my favorite part. What was the full line? I had that written down. It was, former Trump is not seriously injured. Oh, gosh.
Points higher. The S&P 500 looking to open about 18 points higher after what was a tragic and eventful weekend, with now, I think, expectations that former President Trump may, in fact, be not just the leading nominee, but perhaps the winner. We will see. Meantime, we should just show you, by the way, Goldman Sachs up marginally. We had some earnings news before. BlackRock off just marginally. And then let's show you Bitcoin, 62,640 up about 4.5%. Make sure you join us tomorrow. Squawk on the Street begins right now.
Dun, 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 dun.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Jim Cramer at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. David Faber has the morning off. Futures are solid as investors arguably continue to price in a November victory for former President Trump after the tragic attempt on his life Saturday. Powell does speak at noon. Earnings season does kick into higher gear. Our roadmap begins with futures on the move as the RNC begins tonight. Apple shares rallying after this upgrade over at Loop and now a top pick at Morgan Stanley. And Goldman and BlackRock, the latest banks to report. BlackRock's Larry Fink will join us exclusively later on this hour. Let's begin with the attempt to assassinate former President Trump over the weekend. The photo, already iconic, now on the cover of Time. Lots of things to point to, Jim, in the market, whether that's Bitcoin, the curve steepening, shares of DJT at one point up 70% this morning.
Yeah, look, I think that we all know that, by way of Larry Fink from BlackRock, we know that former President Trump was a pro-growth president, was against any sort of rate hikes, and I think that is also so anti-regulation, which is really perhaps the most important difference between Biden and Trump when it comes to business. So it makes sense to me that both the yields go up and the market is very much in favor of this, because I think there's a belief. I remember when I met President Biden several times on the train, on the way to Washington, he just doesn't really care for the stock market. He just doesn't.
Okay, I'm going to pull off this. Yeah, this is interesting. That might help explain why there's just this trading range that we've now re-entered here for end phase and some of the solar movers, where you have this rotation down, unfortunately, in the energy sector because of the pricing in of Trump. Now, let's see here. Pricing in Trump, it hits the, yeah, I guess the theory is that Trump might try to cancel, essentially, the Inflation Reduction Act and some of these other credits that have come out for the energy sector, which also makes you wonder how might that affect a company like Tesla. So, very interesting. But then again, like Kathy Wood said, you've got Elon kind of cozying up to Donald Trump and now donating to Donald Trump. Kind of brilliant. Maybe that'll preserve some of those credits for Tesla. All right, let's go back here for a moment.
Have any sort of power. Now, of course, if you stack the agencies with people you want, as I presume President Trump would do if he gets in, then I think you would see people say, you know what, you got to own the banks and you got to go in the healthcare. So those are the ones that are doing well. The banks are problematic because they're reporting this morning, although I think Goldman was fine, BlackRock was fine. I think Goldman would describe their quarter as fine. They wouldn't say it's blowout. So, I mean, you've got companies that have been regulated heavily, and that would be the healthcare companies, and also, by the way, the drug companies. Yeah. I mean, now, but on the other hand, Trump's never been a fan of the drug companies. I mean, I heard people say this is the time to buy crypto because at one point President Trump said, "Well, I like crypto." I think you have to. This is the leap too far. I think if you want to buy the banks because the earnings per share are better. In some cases, they weren't. If you want to buy the healthcare companies, take your time. United Health has been in the crosshairs of the current president. So this is not the time I think you can just say, you know what a great time to get in United Health. And the drug companies, if you're buying the drug companies, which people are, understand that when President Trump was running the first time, I'm calling him president again because he was president, he said, listen, I'm the most anti-drug company, but he never, ever wanted Medicare to negotiate that I know of.
Right.
And that was a very big win for Biden against the drug companies.
As to your point about UNH, Bank of America, we're going to get all those names this week.
Yes,
as earnings get more.
Right, so we're jumping the gun. I mean, look, if you want to help individuals, I think the way you do it is to understand that you have a man who could be elected who's less prone to regulation. And if you therefore think it's more, you have to think the FTC and justice, and you have to say that he's never been anti-merger. And that's probably the area that makes the most sense.
Meantime, lots of expressions of support over the weekend from Tim Cook and Mark Benioff, Elon Musk, Satya Nadella, Jeff Bezos. More robust expressions of support from Musk and Bill Ackman. Do you get the sense that corporate America will rally behind President Trump?
I don't think publicly.
Good question.
No. The people like Musk will, because I think Musk is someone who, when he thinks, he projects, and that is some people feel bold enough to do that. Some people feel it's opportunistic. I mean, if you had to ask me what company could be hurt the most, it would be the company that does not get any subsidies and is not where the government's not pro. President Trump never has believed in climate change. So therefore, why would he favor EVs? So therefore, you might think Musk is very self-interested. I don't think that's the way Musk thinks. He has a lot on his mind, a lot of business on his mind. I think he just says, look, we need a strong president. The reference to Teddy Roosevelt is someone who just basically said, speak softly, carry a big stick, and was, by the way, he's also the guy who broke up Standard Oil, but that worked out, which is not the case that Rockefeller thought would happen.
We're going to talk some more Tesla. Got some Cybertruck data, a new call out of Wells today. We do first, though, want to get to Eamon Javers, who is at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee with the latest. Good morning, Eamon.
Good morning, Carl. Officials here tell me that they have, in fact, stepped up the security posture here at the Republican National Convention in the wake of that assassination attempt over the weekend. But, Carl, it's remarkable the degree to which you see politics as usual coming through here in this convention. We're already seeing an enormous amount of speculation about a possible vice presidential pick by the former president of the United States. The expectation is, that could come as soon as today, even. In talking to officials here, they say the roll call vote of the states scheduled for later on today. That might be a trigger point for a decision. I'm told that all the candidates for vice president are here in Milwaukee. They are available, if they are selected, to move right into campaign mode. So all of that coming against the backdrop of this assassination attempt over the weekend. And of course, we heard last night in the Oval Office from President Joe Biden, who urged the nation to come together. He urged calm, he urged peace, and an end to an era of political violence. Here's what Biden said.
Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy.
Okay, we don't need to hear this again. We've already gone through this. All right, let's just back off this. They're kind of just summarizing over here, which is a little boring right now. I want to look at, so we've seen DJT still up 53%, Apple up 2%. This is going to be an all-time high open right here. Coinbase obviously moving up, and the energy sector moving down with the exception of Tesla, probably because Elon's donating to the good old Don. Gotta be the favorite child that way. And Bitcoin's moving up. Let's go watch the cues here. And I'm going to throw IWM up as well for the Russell 2000 small cap, and then we can kind of see that spread between the two. They actually look like they're moving relatively similarly there on the right, but you still have a spread between the two where the IWM's outperforming. Okay, so the Trump trade, let's see here. Trump trades are gathering momentum after the shooting. Quick look at how the stock market traded months after the election in 2016. Saw that most sectors gained 5 months after the election, being led by, okay, here we go. So I'm going to write this down as well. Sectors that led in the 5 months after Trump's 2016 election, not to be confused with 2020, going all the way back to 2016, were financials, infotech, so that's going to be like your Apple, etc., etc., right? Discretionaries, those have just been getting smoked the last couple of years. Materials and industrials. The laggards were utilities, consumer staples, faux PP would be in your staples, and real estate. A lot of REITs have been doing really well lately, and those might slow down. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sideways movement there for a while. Okay. Let's see here. Shift away from megatech still looks premature. Let's see here. Multiples largely unchanged. Let's see here. AI, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. U.S. megacap valuations are causing record-breaking distortions, which mask the underlying index valuations. Yes, that's fair. Bond market, yet to be convinced on what Trump means for yields. Fine. watch for this. Okay, we talked a little bit earlier about how I think the fading of faux pricing power will lead to substantial joblessness. But I do want to also mention that, and which we've talked about already, but sort of re-mention here, that markets are pricing in a smaller chance of a Kamala replacement following the assassination attempt on Trump. Okay. Then, let's see here. Oh, I want to know how Baba's doing after that Chinese GDP data. But down a little bit. Okay, so... Okay, pricing in Trump is also seen as risky for China. Pricing in... Write that down. As a negative for China. And then we did also get data this weekend, so Chinese data. We'll write some of this down. Okay, what do we have for the good old Chinese data? We have weakening consumer, property market still getting hit. I want to see those Chinese GDP numbers. That was the big thing. I think we missed, but I wasn't paying too much attention to it yesterday. There was so much going on. Okay, here it is. Second quarter growth of 4.7% for Q2, down from 5.3 in Q1. And retail sales for June also missed expectations. That doesn't surprise me. It's one of the things that I've been mentioning pretty consistently on the channel, that, you know, I personally have been staying away from the Chinese market because I think the Chinese consumer has been destroyed, you know, mostly by the destruction of real wealth in real estate. It's crazy. Let's jump in over here for a moment and probably check Bloomberg in a moment.
The idea that China's this great growth engine until you get the earnings. And then I mean, my chapter trust owns 3 companies. I wrote a piece this weekend. And these are 3 companies that would be fantastic if they didn't have China. And yet all the CEOs say the same thing, which is, thank heavens we're in China. Thank heavens we're in China. I mean, you guys are lunkheads. This is why you keep missing your quarter.
Although
Okay, Jimbo.
To cut rates going forward at least once or twice this year. And I note that Jan Hatzius a couple of weeks ago from Goldman Sachs said, if we do get a Trump presidency, the Fed is going to need to raise rates 5 times. 130 basis points was his argument because increased tariffs bring more inflation. What do you think about that concern?
I can see the reasoning on that. I mean, we've seen it already this morning. We saw the long end of the curve move up. 10s move up a few basis points. 30s move up even longer than that because of the inflation component. That's what the long end of the curve reacts to. So that could be a component that we're there. But if you combine that with the belief that you're going to have growth and strong growth, then I think the market will overlook higher rates a little bit at this point in time, and will still lean more towards those risk-on sectors that are doing really well right now. And like you said, that breadth is really increasing. We have to watch and see if the momentum continues. Momentum is belief in a soft landing, Fed cutting rates for right now, and the AI secular trade. Those tailwinds are going to continue for the foreseeable future.
I want to talk about timing here, because on the topic of the curve steepener and some of these other Trump trades that have been talked about, you think about what we saw a couple weeks ago coming out of the debate. Of course, the reaction in the market was strong the next day as people coalesced, at least investors, around the idea that Trump would win the presidency. And then those trades fizzled by the time that the week was through. You think about this current episode that we're in. How sustainable is this? I mean, what does the path between now and November look like when it comes to timing some of these Trump trades?
I wish I had an answer for you on that question. I don't know what the timing is going to be on these, and we don't know if this bounce that we're seeing will fade. Probably a lot of it will have to do with what we see coming out of the convention this week, the rhetoric that we see out of there. You guys were talking to a guest previously. If Trump and his campaign can really pull in some of those moderate voters, then I think you'll continue to see some movement here in the market in support of what we would call the Trump trade. If they don't manage to do that, then then we could see this reverse pretty quickly. So we never want to time the market, but we want to look at some of those sectors that have high quality names, strong balance sheets, good cash flows. That's where people need to focus right now.
All right, great to get grounded with you, Victoria. Thank you so much for joining us on this day. Victoria Fernandez there of Crossmark Global Investments. Coming up, we're going to take a closer look at the results coming in from Goldman Sachs with Gerard Cassidy, RBC Capital Markets head of U.S. Bank Equity Strategy and large cap banks as well. This is Bloomberg.
Alrighty. So I want to take a look at the world interest rate probability as well, just to see where we sit. And it does look like I want to take a look at the Fed schedule today, because it does seem like we've got the Fed. Let's jump in over here. There's Apple. Fed calendar. So today is July 15th. Now, this is going to be the first J-Pow yapping. Oh, Dave Rubenstein. Oh, that's great. It's at 12:30, not 12. CNBC said 12. This is actually good. Dave Rubenstein is really blunt when it comes to Powell, and I love that. So Powell speaks with Dave Rubenstein at 12:30 p.m. And this will be the first Powell talk since week CPI. PPI came in a little warmer since week CPI data. And the first Powell talk since stronger PPI, mostly due to trade. There we go. Because we broke that down. I remember we were going through it that morning. We were like, what is going on with this PPI numbers? And nobody was talking about it. We finally got to the bottom of it. So that'll be a big deal. We'll definitely cover that. So that's at 12:30 p.m. I'll write that down really quickly. So 12:30 p.m. Powell. And then usually their discussion's about 30 minutes, so it's not horribly long. Could be 45 minutes. I'll put it on the calendar here. Okay, good. So we'll cover that. And I think that's going to be pretty important. It could actually lead to a little bit of a soft trade here in the AM, mostly because you end up getting some nervousness around, what's Powell going to say? So you've got a little bit of slippage here in the Qs. I wonder, what kind of open you're going to get here. Qs are slipping, whereas IWM's still holding on. Nvidia is holding on. Coinbase, obviously, on the Bitcoin move there. So Tesla 382 here. Okay, so that is interesting. Let me look now at the pricing of Fed cuts. So Fed pricing, or rate cut pricing rather. Whoa! Yep, the September cut is still fully priced in after that last inflation data. So that means Powell should start planting the seeds here soon, like today maybe, on September rate cuts. So Sept 1.01 cuts expected. Let's go. November is 1.66-ish. November 1.66 cuts expected. And then if I jump over to December, I'm at 255 cuts expected. And then Jan, we sit at about 3.3 cuts expected. Wow. Cuts expected. Okay. Very interesting. So, and we looked at our yield curve. We saw the yield curve steepening quite a bit, which, you're actually, you're 23 basis points inverted right now. Let's see here, negative 23 BP inverted on 210. And this is happening as I'm pretty sure the 10-year is rising. So this is actually it's you got a bear steepening with 10-year up 3.55%, or sorry, 3.55 basis points today. The percent, that'd be crazy. Okay. That's kind of not good. But let's see what else here. A Trump-driven steepener would send long yields higher at a faster pace than the front end, stemming from the idea of looser fiscal policy should he become president, which they don't believe will happen. Interesting. Steepening driven by conviction of a rate cut. Let's see. May gain traction. Blah blah blah. Steepener trade. Blah blah blah. Okay, fine. Now, what are the predicted odds of Trump, and how have they moved after? I'm pretty sure it's all moved up afterwards. 10 minutes here to the bell. We know Kamala's getting unpriced a lot. And then if we go to the winner for the Electoral College, yeah, over the last 30 days, you're still seeing this increase in pricing here for Trump. Specifically after that shooting, his odds went up somewhere between 10 to 12%. And on a points basis, that would be about 7 to 8 percentage points. 10 to 12% being from 60% up, 6 to 8 points. Wow, Biden's really sitting kind of low. But you really have to combine Biden and Kamala over here. So just take the inverse of the 68. That way you're kind of merging all this together. Crazy. Okie dokie. Alright. So let's go jump over and see if Jimbo has anything else that's new. No, he doesn't because it's on commercial. That's fine. We could go to the non-political Fox Biz. I'm sure there won't be anything about politics
this morning. See you again soon, I hope. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
The House Oversight Committee asked Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle to testify. When might that happen?
1 week from today, so next Monday.
Yeah, those testimonies are going to be really interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what happens with those, but we don't really need to cover this at the very moment. Instead, let's see what some of these other trades are doing. So Apple up, Tesla is right on the line. It's going to be really interesting to see what direction we go at the open. I mean, the pre-market says up, but you do have a bear steepener, so which is often associated with down. So I'm very curious to see which way we go here. We shall see. Open Dizzle. Ubiquity. Ubiquity I like. FICO's just killing it. But then it makes you wonder how that could be affected by the consumer as well. Yeah. Okay. So Snowflake, Snow and Palantir. I think these are some of your true OG AI plays. The Hood's moving nicely. Yeah, Robinhood actually. I don't know why Robinhood. Maybe because it's just the pre-market trade that's going on. I don't watch that. So Hood's got a nice move here. Super Micro has a nice move. Trade Desk roughly back to 100. Enphase, this 113 line, honestly I like buying Enphase right at 113. Like I don't know that I've ever gone wrong buying Enphase at 113. It's tempting to sell when it's down pre-market 4.7, but I really don't know that I've ever been done wrong by that 113 line. So curious about that. I don't know the direction for Tesla today. In pre-market, we were up like 5.5%. So, can you get that sort of explosion again over here at Tesla? I think the answer is probably yes, but I want to see what happens. Let's see here. Somebody says I need to wear my MAGA hat. Hold on. Let me get my hat. There we go. All right. So, okay, what else here? Carvana. These are some of your smaller caps moving here. Oh, Dell, no. Carnival, no. How about Dave & Buster's? You know, they're a small-ish. So, Dave & Buster's, slow trend up here on D&B. You know, so for those smalls, Dave & Buster's. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, Apple just keeps going. That doesn't surprise me. I really think this is one of the safe ones. But who knows? Yeah. Did see the shooter in that BlackRock ad. BlackRock actually pulled that ad. Okay. All right, about 3.5 minutes to go, and then we'll have the opening bell here. Macy's getting whacked a little bit. Coin should move nicely. Is BTC still moving? Let's see here. Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah. So, coin. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty then. Imperial March music, right? I should have that. That'd be kind of cool to have that ready. Do have, I put these other tunes up that I really gotta actually use, but I never do. Like, I have, these little tunes for, like, suspense music, you know, when data's about to come out or whatever, but never use them. One day they will be used. One day. All right. So, what's this? Can you create a fund for day swing trades? You can invest in my job prevents trading during the day. Oh, yeah, I don't. Maybe it would be the easy. Like usually, what people do when it comes to trading is hedge funds, right? It's like a long-term goal, but I don't know that you can actively trade with an ETF. I guess I don't see why not, because then you could benefit from the tax trade. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. There might be a reason why that isn't done. You know, otherwise I feel like all hedge funds would use it. It'd be very interesting. It might not be fast enough. I think that's the issue. It might not be fast enough. So Tesla dropping a little bit here going into the open. Yeah, I think the bear steepener is just going to weigh on the markets a little bit as the market opens up. So we'll see. GoldenEye music, that's funny. All right. So we're now moments away from the opening bell. And yeah, good luck today. Hope you go make lots of money. And yeah, good luck. So we'll see if the bear steepener takes over, or if we end up getting some bullishness here. All right. All too loud.
Capital Advisors celebrating the recent listing of its first ETF. And over the NASDAQ, speaking of Amazon, it's Whole Foods. celebrating the 20th anniversary of its flagship store in New York City. We'll get to that in a second, Jim, as we watch Brett fill in here. Any overall surprises about the market's reaction today?
No. I think that there's a misconception, at least empirically. Biden, for better or worse, so to speak, if you are against him, has been a benign period for the stock market.
All right. Let's see what we got here. So you got Tesla. You got a big red candle there on Tesla. Waiting for a little bit of movement on Tesla. You've got Enphase. Enphase bouncing off that line. Kind of anticipated that you would end up seeing some kind of bounce like that. That's not a surprise to me. Rivian tanks at the open there. Wow. And then you've got Tesla still kind of moving red. Enphase trying to move up here. Apple's obviously up. Q's up over here. Nvidia's got some green that it's holding on to. Let's listen in to Jimbo for a moment on the open here. What do we got?
Yeah, that kind of stuff's going to end.
Right.
I just think that the deal...
No, Nvidia's trying to move red as well now. Watching the Q's are trying to red candle. DJT's red candling. Still, you got a lot of red trying to push through right now in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if you end up getting some red now, and then you get a reversal towards Powell. That would be my guess. You've got BTC red candling a little bit. Not great. Enphase going right back down to about that 113 line. Let's see if it can hold that 113 support. That's pretty important. Tesla basically gave up its 5% a long time ago. Now it's giving up its 3%. Rivian has a little heart attack there at the open. So does Nvidia. Weird. It's the bear steepener. Just everything kind of selling off a bit there at the open. Microsoft's trying to come up. AMD. I think there's actually a good chance you might end up having some buy the dip opportunities here. Look at the financials move. That's very 2016 Trumpian trade right there. There's Supermicro. Supermicro wants to hold on. Now Supermicro might be holding on because it's moving into the S&P 500 and out of the Russell 2000. So big movement there. Now you're overshooting a bit on Enphase. And Apple keeps going. Really impressive there on Apple. Still got a bit of the fall, though. We're on the average candles. There we go. Still falling on Tesla. Let's listen in here just for a moment.
Don't limit it to different countries. India, tough to do business. I think a lot of us are sitting back and saying, okay, how could the WWDC, where the Ascent started, their festival of basically people who do a lot of business off this. And I think it all came from the idea that, you know what, the next phone's going to be AI. And you're all going to have to upgrade. And the upgrade is going to be record numbers. And there have been a lot of negativity about it.
Okay, Tesla rebounding now. Let's go.
Since 2011, when Steve Jobs passed away. And that was just a bad call by a lot of different analysts. They just were on the wrong side of the trade. They decided to trade it, not own it. And once again, I remember speaking to Tim Cook after WWDC around 3 o'clock our time. And I said, why is the stock down? Which it was down. And he was saying, I don't know, why is the stock down? I said, listen, the privacy, what you said about privacy is good, is remarkably important to millennials, to Gen Z. And what you're doing with AI is incredible. He said, that's what we thought. And yet, initially, the stock was down 3. If you remember, that was the last great buying opportunity.
Meantime, I know you're holding the Loop note. They upgrade to buy. 300 is 33 times $9.
Right.
And then Morgan Stanley names it a top pick. Loop's point is they could assert themselves as the base camp for Gen AI.
Well, that's true, and they may, because everybody wants. It was surprising to see that all these companies that have been known as enterprise companies, Alphabet Enterprise Company, most definitely Microsoft Enterprise, but does have obviously with Copilot very much a consumer side, that people would want to give them their AI in order to be able to demonstrate that they have great AI, kind of a storefront. And it matters tremendously about that multiple. Now, the Morgan Stanley piece says that there's a 31 target multiple, one turn behind.
Tesla pushing. Let's go.
people at home, what that means is that the stock is not as expensive as it's ultimately been, so get in. But remember that when it got to a little bit more expensive, it was the peak in Apple. So I think there's wiggle room, but mainly Morgan Stanley has always been known as the most, even from the old days when Katie Huberty was
on hardware, you mean?
Yeah. Morgan Stanley has been very pro, and when you speak with them, they are not cheerleaders at all. What they are believers that the installed base is great, that the revenue from service is terrific, and that long-term people just love the product. And when you speak to Tim Cook, he always says, why doesn't Wall Street understand that our product's loved? Why? What is the problem? Almost like, well, what are they using? I always say, well, they're downgrading you using an Apple handheld experience here. And he always laughs about that. And he doesn't laugh very much. I try to be as funny as I can with these people, just because the days are so...
All right, I'm going to pull off Jimbo here yapping about Apple. Big fan of Apple, by the way. Big position in my fundo, not an advertisement for fundo, but I still think this sucker's going to 250 pretty soon. Tesla's really the rally child here today, so really nice moves there on Tesla. If you're in the Stocks and Psych group, sent an alert, just a few minutes ago. And Enphase seems like it's really trying to find a bottom here, but it's really failing to do anything right now. It's a little unfortunate there for Enphase. And Nvidia is really starting to kind of tanky doodle a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean it's like tanking. It's not doing too hot right there at all. Neither is Enphase. This sucker just keeps going down. Dang. It's all right. The bottom will hit one of these minutes. All right, let's listen in here again. I'm gonna flip to Bloomberg too, see if they have something good for us.
I think they called it puppy love, this retail reaction to recent days. And then you got the Cybertruck, which appears outselling the F-150 Lightning.
Lightning, which is the Lightning. I think that's also the Lightning's not been selling as well as I thought. Having driven it, I thought that people would really be crazy about it, but people like the experience. I always love the fact that there's a button that you can make it sound like the F-150, the real video. It's like, press that button. Regina Gilligan says, let's get that button when she's an executive producer when you're riding around in one. I think that the thing about Tesla that's most interesting is that we've all come to use free cash flow as a great way to view companies that don't have EPS, and these guys don't have great free cash flow. They have a lot of love. And I think that people just see that the power initiatives, and this is something that Jonas taught us, that the power initiatives could be worth a great deal.
Which is why I think also on Friday we didn't get the chance to ask you about the Jonas note in which he referenced a client lunch about Tesla in which the auto business didn't come up once in 90 minutes.
And I think that's really it. I think that people are very, very excited about Musk being a visionary, about energy. I'm not going to disagree because energy is what he wants to do, and we'll talk to Larry Fink. Look, AI, data center, the need to power the data center with clean energy of which he would have, these may be one of the great growth areas of the economy. So I am not going to sit here and say, you know what, we should ignore what Tesla's doing when it comes to energy. I'm going to say I embrace it the way Adam Jonas does. I have to do that. I just think it's right.
Right. Well, in the few seconds we have left, Jim, Amazon Prime Day starts tomorrow. Right. Adobe Analytics says might be looking at a 10% annual rise.
You know, the story that I think to keep coming
Alrighty. Let's go see what else is going on. So, Tesla's now up at 5%. Let's go, Tesla! It's getting rejected, though, at the 260 level. This is a pretty typical spot for Tesla to get rejected. This is not a surprise to me. I don't think it's an indicator to paper hand at 260. In fact, honestly, I think after Powell today, I'm going to say it. I think you could retest 270 today. Enphase, bottoming. Let's go. Oh, let's go. Dude, I just bought the dip 3 minutes ago on this sucker. Let's go. Let me see what time did I buy the dip? I just bought the dip at 9:37. I hope it doesn't keep dipping. Oh, right there. Right there. That's the candle. Let's go. Yeah. So come on, Enphase, pump it up, baby. Dude, Enphase always goes back to 113 to 119. I think people panic. Like, when they get a big red candlestick like this, everybody panics and they get stopped out, and they're paper handing it. Nah, not me, baby. Enphase! Motors and Tesla. Let's go. How bad? Look, I'm gonna be really clear today. I could lose my entire trading account today if Powell goes bearish, because I'm so bullish. I think Powell is gonna lather us up with butter. I don't know, there's not a good analogy here. He's gonna be good. Inflation's over. And Steve's gonna be upset hearing this, commodity Steve, but inflation's over. And he's got to protect the jobs market. The next phase of disaster is the jobs market rolling over like that. And it's going to suck because it's going to happen really, really fast. It's going to happen really fast and it's going to suck. When that jobs market tanks, it's going to tank. And so I'm very nervous about that. But Powell speaks at 9:30 California time. I'll be covering it, obviously. And I think he's going to treat us to some of the most delicious hints ever that we are getting a September rate cut. And then markets will finally wake up to the fact that we're going to get rate cuts sooner than expected. My bingo card says he's going to blow off the hot PPI data. And after he blows off the hot PPI data, he's going to get really, really excited about rate cuts. Hey, look, it's the guy who aired the shooter.
And if we can't grow out of this, these deficits are going to be becoming a big burden. And we're going to be really putting on the backs of our children, our grandchildren, a real burden of these massive, massive spends that we can't afford.
I think it's important to point out you did not say one candidate is more pro-spend than another.
It's all pro-spend.
Right. But I do think it's important also that President Trump has been adamant that there's been way too much regulation under President Biden. So I have to believe that you would say that the business would be unfettered. And if they're unfettered, that could help the growth, which would therefore lower the deficit.
We need unfettered businesses right now. We need growth. And we're going to get growth from the private sector. We can't rely on public deficits anymore. The public deficits are just growing too fast as a percent of GDP. As a perspective, our deficits were only $8 trillion in 2020. They're going to be at $26 trillion, $36 trillion. We grew our deficits more than $1 trillion a year over the last 24 years. This is unheard of. It is at an unsustainable level. Yet we have the most dynamic capitalistic system in the world. We have great companies. We have great ingenuity, great technology. Let it unbound, let it go, create great jobs, create opportunities, and we'll have a rising equity market that will really fuel this opportunity.
Is that a playbook that you think a President Trump would deliver? And what are your thoughts about what happened over the weekend?
I believe both political candidates need to be playing that playbook. So let's start there. And what happened this weekend is a tragedy.
Woo! Okay, so sorry, I had to send another a buy alert on something else, something I've never bought before, and so it's kind of going to be really interesting. I'm really setting myself up for Powell. And I think you're going to get volatility between now and Powie Dowie, mostly because that would be normal and expected. Powie is probably going to weigh on markets before they really rally. That's my guess. Just my guess, but we'll see. Apple's kind of rolling over a little bit right now. Which is interesting because Apple did really well there at open. All-time highs, 237 on Apple. Wow. And now you're getting some selling pressure on Apple over there. Look at the Qs. The Qs just vomited. Absolutely vomited. And there was no data in that minute either. I don't know if markets are just sort of like, oh no, Powell's going to talk to us today. Whatever, man. Sets me up for some cheaper buys. So, my take today is I'm setting up. I've got 3 hours until, if 3 hours from now, Powell will be in the middle of talking. I'm going to set up trades. I'm going to go into Powell bullish. And if I can buy the dip, great, going into it. I think we get markets are fully pricing in September, and we've had radio silence from Powell on rate cuts. So I want to make a note of that. So radio silence from Powell on when cuts. He's suggested it would be abundantly clear when cuts come. And so far, we've had nothing. If markets are pricing in a full 1% for Sept, we should see some reaction from the Fed either today or the July meeting, which I think, or the July FOMC, which I think that's the 31st. Let me see here. FOMC schedule. Yep, July 31st. And then what I'm going to do... Yeah, let me see if there are any hints from Nick T. That's a good question. Nice Q sell down there. This is nervousness right here. That's bizarre. And I'm not even setting stop losses right now. Because I found I stop losing when I stop setting stop losses. That's a joke I have. But it's also true. So based on the June CPI and PPI forecasters who map out PCE expect core prices rose just 0.17% in June, which would hold the 12-month rate at 2.6. The space 6-month annualized rate would tick up to 3.3, and the 3-month down to 2.1. Q's not happy right now. Okay, that's fine. June CPI far milder than expected. I'll show you that chart in just a sec here. U.S. airlines are cutting prices. A year ago, everyone was traveling and it didn't really matter the cost. Now they're looking for more deals. Yup. Oh, I wonder if multivariate core is updated yet. Multivariate core NY Fed. Let me see here. Oh, and how's Hood doing? Because I know... Okay, yeah, Hood's still up here. It hasn't rolled over yet. Multivariate core. Da-ba-da-ba-bee-da-boo-da-ba. Let's see. Multivariate... No, we're still in May for the multivariate core. I think that's a ripoff. They really got to update this faster, but they wait for the PCE data. But we had a PCE for, oh no, I guess we haven't yet. June PCE is what comes out next. Oh, that's so lagged. That's crazy. That's crazy slow. Ah, whatever. Okay, so what are we thinking here? My take is BTC, there's a chance. Okay, this is crazy, but... Listen, I'm gonna stake it right here, and if I'm wrong, that's okay. You can make fun of me. I deserve it. But I'm going to give you my opinion right now. In fact, I pretty much always give you my opinion, and I'm willing to be wrong, but my goal is always to be right more than I'm wrong. Duh. Bitcoin. Okay. By the end of the week, which let me quickly see what catalysts we have. I don't really think other than earnings. And I want to see what earnings we have. All right, let's see here. Retail sales tomorrow, don't care. Building starts, initial jobless claims. Nothing. Nothing other than Powell. Powell yapping is the biggest catalyst this week. That's for data. Now, if I look at the earnings week, I've got banks, ASML, United Airlines, Discover, Kinder Morgan, Domino's, Taiwan Semi, but they've already pre-indicated. Netflix at the end of the week. That's actually Thursday, rather. American Express. Okay, so some credit cards, Netflix. You're pretty early in the earnings cycle. So, all right. Let's see here. By the end of the week, This is Kevin's crazy thesis on Powell, lack of data, and benign start to earnings. Okay. So I'm going to go Bitcoin 70K, Tesla 275, Apple 250, Enphase 125. 119 support is worth noting here. And this is, I want to say the support here is 68. Might be too, maybe I'm too bullish, but that's okay. Oh no, 69.04. 69.047. Support. Okay. Quite possibly too bullish, but I believe Powell will lean dovish, and markets digesting low inflation, dovish Powell, and no turn yet on jobs data, though that will come and be very risky and bad for markets, will lead markets higher in the short term. All right. That's a thesis. And let me see here. Okay. Cool. So that's my take. Bitcoin, Tesla, Apple, Enphase. And we'll see what happens. So Friday/Monday, we'll have to come back and we'll have to see. So I'm going to put, I'll title that so we could save it. We'll call it, Kevin forecast and end of profit growth and jobs. Okay, that's that PDF. All right. So we'll come back to that. So now, again, I'm expecting this nonsense to continue until Powell. This is not unusual. This is like, usually people, I don't know what it is, but it's like before Wowie, everybody gets their, panties in a knot over, oh my gosh, what if he says something bad? Oh my gosh. And he just hasn't. Like the last few meetings, it's just all been dovish. Because he realizes he's screwing the jobs market. Absolutely screwing it. Okay. So, what else? Moody's just came out. Federal Reserve could begin easing policy with 25 basis points as soon as July 31st. If Powell indicates a cut July 31st, we are going to absolutely moon. That is even more bullish than my thesis. Let me see here. I think we're only pricing in like a 1% chance of that. Powell speaks at 9:30. No, there's a 6.5% chance of that. So I guess I'll write that down. I'll put July 5 cuts expected. Moody's thinks we'll get a July cut of 25 bips. Oh, well, yeah. Okay, that's of cuts. Right. Number of cuts. Okay. All right. What else? Let's listen in here.
We're all worried about guns in America and the misuse by some people of guns. This doesn't identify anything new, but it's horrifying to see. And so that could be that cathartic thing that allows us to say, we need to do better. We can do better.
Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means. So you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of a deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and you have an opportunity to invest in.
All right, this guy's boring. So I just wrote this. So I'm just sort of memorializing my thesis. I threw this up on eHack. End of the week thesis. I threw these. Note for Tesla, I wrote 295 resistance with pre-selling. That's why I'm saying 275. End phase, I think 125 with the 119 support because it's going to try to get to 130. This is a very interesting one right here, okay? BitX. BITX is actually a 2x leveraged Bitcoin ETF. This, in my opinion, could be very desirable this week if Bitcoin goes to 70. Because if Bitcoin goes to 70, I mean, what you're doing is you're taking 70 divided by 63, you're 11%. That's a 22% move that you would expect to get on BitX. And if you had options on it, you could basically, you're either going to make a lot of money or your account's just going to go to zero. So, you evaluate your YOLOs. I'll evaluate my YOLOs, and we can YOLO together or not YOLO together. I can't believe I haven't finished my coffee yet. I thought this was going to be empty. Nope. Anyway, so this is my thesis, and look, I'm willing to give you my opinion. I've seen so many people make buy the dip videos on Nike, and I don't watch people's videos. I just kind of I'm just looking what are people talking about, dude. I don't know. I'm gonna look at Nike really quick right now. To me, there are. I think of stocks like a 2x2 in Rust. Okay. Yeah, the best foundation you start with in Rust is a 2x2. Okay. Valuation, pricing power, sentiment momentum, BK risk. I don't think Nike has BK risk. And generally, I like to think of Nike as a pricing power brand, but I would have thought of Starbucks as a pricing power brand as well. I would have thought of Under Armour at one point as a pricing power brand. The problem is the amount of competition when people are tight with their wallets, in my opinion, makes me concerned about the ability of them to have pricing power. And then I look at, their valuation. I don't think their valuation is actually obscene, but I'm going to run it really quick. So 72.56 divided by 323 puts me at 22.5. I'll call it 22.5. And then I have growth of 1408, 1237, 1576, 988, 52.09 divided by 4. I've got 13% growth. I forgot what the PE ratio was. 72.61 divided by 323, 22.5. 22.5 divided by 13. Yeah, so it's trading for 1.7 times on a PEG basis. That's fair. That's a fair valuation for its growth. So valuation is fair, sentiment is in the toilet, PP has a question mark on it, and BK risk is fine. You're good. But see, I I think of I mean, I'm going to run Enphase, for example. Now, Nike manufactures. Enphase doesn't manufacture. I think people forget this about Enphase. They contract their manufacturing out, so they have that ability to fluctuate, which is a little different from NVIDIA, because NVIDIA just designs and fully contracts out. But I guess isn't that kind of the same? I mean, NVIDIA contracts to TSM, Enphase contracts to other manufacturers. I guess that's almost the same. Yeah, that is kind of the same. But anyway, Enphase right now is trading for 271. You're trading for 41 times forward earnings, right? But the growth rate on this sucker, 41 times. Remember 41. Okay. 57, 29.65, 25.31, 26.68. I'm going to have growth of 153 divided by 4. I'm going to have growth of 38 times. 41 divided by 38.25. Dude, I'm sitting at 1.07 times growth for a company that manufactures or that designs solar inverters and somebody else manufactures it for them. To me, that's juicy. I don't know about you, but that's just like, that is such a good deal. Especially now as we're getting into a week where, I got something else to pay attention to.
Walk on the street. I'm Sarah Eisen with Carl Quintanilla, live as always from Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. David Faber has the morning off. Starting on a high note this week for the market, the S&P up about 0.5%. The NASDAQ comp up about 0.6%. You've got most sectors higher. Energy is leading the way today, along with communication services. What's lagging? 3 sectors are red right now: utilities, consumer staples, and materials. And part of the explanation is what's happening with bonds. Treasuries are selling off and yields are a little bit higher. The 10-year note yield goes to 4.22, and the curve steepens. It is being called the Trump trade. We'll talk about it in just a few. We're 30 minutes here into the trading session. Here are 3 movers we're watching. Apple trading higher as Loop Capital upgrades the name to buy, takes the price target to $300 a share, saying they're bullish on the company's AI opportunity. Bloomberg also reporting that Apple's annual sales in India, have hit a record of almost 8.
U.S. judgment. Okay. There's this question about the gross margins of Enphase versus NVIDIA. I'm not trying to compare the two on a gross margin basis because you can't right now. NVIDIA's are so great. But you have to keep this in mind. NVIDIA's gross margin is so high because there's a shortage of what people want right now. And so that does give them substantial pricing power for the short term. That will fade over time.
Attempted assassination. Our Eamon Javers joins us with some breaking news. Morning, Eamon.
Oh, wow.
Good morning, Carl. That's right. The former president is here in Milwaukee, and he arrives to Milwaukee with a big win here in the courts just within the past couple of minutes. Federal Judge Aileen Cannon has now moved to dismiss the documents case against the former president of the United States. She's arguing here in this dismissal document that we just got, Carl, within the past minute, that the special counsel's appointment itself was unconstitutional. The judge says the bottom line is this: the appointment's the Constitution is a critical constitutional restriction stemming from the separation of powers, and it gives to Congress a considered role in determining the propriety of vesting appointment power for inferior officers. The special counsel's position effectively usurps that important legislative authority, transferring it to a head of department, and in the process threatening the structural liberty inherent in the separation of powers. So on separation of powers and constitutional grounds now, the federal judge has dismissed the case against the former president of the United States involving classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. That is a big political win for the former president here ahead of his appearance at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where he is going to accept his party's nomination for president of the United States. We do expect, by the way, more political news coming any time now, really. The question is, who will be Donald Trump's running mate in 2024? Lots of speculation around 3 main candidates there: J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and the governor of North Dakota as well. All of those folks are in consideration here for the vice presidency. And what we'll see is who Donald Trump decides wants to be the closest official to him in his new administration if he is to win in November. That is an open question right now. There's some indication that the former president may have not made that decision yet. We do expect a roll call of the states later on today, and there's some folks here in Milwaukee who suggest that we might see a vice presidential pick before then. All of the candidates, I'm told, are here in Milwaukee, and they are prepared to get started with the undertaking if they are selected. The question is, who is Donald Trump going to pick, and do the events of the weekend have any bearing now on that decision? Guys, back over to you.
I mean, just put into some context this Cannon dismissal. There are many who argue that for prosecutors, at least, particularly for Jack Smith, that this was one of the clearer paths, some argued, to a robust hearing on it.
Yeah, look, it's a remarkable thing to have this case dismissed at this stage of the game, given that the special counsel's role has been visible throughout this entire process, right? His appointment process has been visible. The questions about his status were sort of rumbling in the background among critics of the special counsel, but we saw now this motion by the former president's legal team, and the judge here agreeing with it and basically shutting down the entire case. This is a judge, Carl, who had already taken some criticism from folks on the left who felt that she was too amenable to arguments by the Trump legal team, that she was proceeding too slowly with the case and giving a hearing to arguments made by the former president's team that folks on the left didn't agree with, didn't think had merit. You can imagine those critics will be hopping mad after this decision today. Nothing they can do about it right now, though.
Eamon, the response of corporate America, it was pretty swift and interesting what CEOs speak out on. And there were so many of them from all industries out saying, they're praying for the former president's health and they condemn it and we need to come together as a nation. And then a few of them, Elon Musk, probably the biggest, coming out and actually supporting him. And I just wonder how that changes the dynamic, if at all.
Well, I mean, a couple of things to note about that. I think it's in the sort of the PR calculus of a big C-suite executive. One of the easier things to do is to condemn violence, right? That's one thing that all of their constituents and all of their employees will be against. It's more difficult to come out and endorse a presidential candidate who might divide your employees, might divide your customer base. So that's something that you're not going to see them doing. But I think with the rise of former President Donald Trump in the polls, particularly his escape from an assassination attempt over the weekend and the heroic images of him bloodied and defiant that we saw throughout the media and on social media around the world, that all of that makes a Donald Trump reelection more likely. And so I think you're going to look at executives looking for opportunities to say something positive about the former president, given that they know their box.
Hey, check out this bounce on DJT here, and then I'm going to answer some of these super chats here. But look at that. Look at that, right on my line. That's crazy. Well, close to the line. My line's at 39.33 is where I have a line there on DJT. Remember, folks, I think a lot, I just want to be clear. I expect volatility today. If you're setting stop losses on your trades today, I think when you meet Sarah, do you go for a hug or a handshake? Oh, you have to go for... Yeah, I mean, you have to start with a handshake. You have to be respectful. But, yeah. I don't think you could really go for a hug until you've actually... you really have to know somebody for a hug. Otherwise, it's kind of weird. Yeah, no, it'd take like 3 times meeting somebody before you can get to hug. Otherwise, that's weird. That's my take. But anyway, so... Okay, so, Palantir dropping a little bit. I expect volatility. So if you're setting stops on trades, I think you're going to get smoked today. But if you go into the Powell trade and you're super bullish, you're probably going to lose all your money because you're better off doing the opposite of what I talk about. Just inverse trade me. But if you don't want to inverse trade me, none of this personalized advice, I think being very bullish on Powell today is the play. And I'm actually surprised that we had the red candles that we did at open because I think it's overdone. In fact, Apple's already clawing its way back. I don't know. I don't even know why I have a line at 233, but it just bounced off 233. Handshakes with women are weird. They never do it correctly. I disagree with that. And I have a career of shaking hands, and no, I disagree with that. Will Trump win? Hurt end phase in the long run? No, I'm not really worried about it. I see. You have to. Okay, you want to know the trick that you have to understand about Republicans versus Democrats. First of all, Lauren asked me to ask this: if an extreme liberal is a libtard, what is an extreme Republican? Okay, I'm going to leave that out there. I want to know what the answers are to that. Then, the second thing that I wanted to touch on is, here's how it works, okay? Democrats spend more. Republicans say they're going to cut the wasteful spending and they're going to lower taxes, right? So what happened? Lols. Okay. Yeah, so... yeah, Lauren's like, I'm taking full credit for that. That's funny. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So, oh god. This chat is devolving. This is bad. Okay, so if Democrats spend money and Republicans promise to cut taxes, what happens if a Republican comes in and he undoes the Democrats' spending? It's actually a tax hike, right? Think about it. If Trump comes in and removes the Inflation Reduction Act and cuts subsidies for the solar industry or the auto industry, you are raising taxes on the solar industry and the car industry. Republicans don't do that. So usually what happens is the Democrats spend and the Republicans keep it and lower taxes. And the delta between the two is more government debt. Congratulations. There's your political lesson for the day. Like and subscribe. Lauren needs to hear all your Sarah comments. Lauren knows all about the Sarah comments. All right, let's see here. What are your thoughts on people who squeeze the crap out of a handshake? I mean, there's always, like, people get taught, like, you know, oh, you gotta have a strong handshake. There's like, I think the more experienced people have shaking hands, the more you just adapt to what the other person is into. And you start neutral, and then if somebody, you know, goes a little harder, you go a little harder. You have to be careful. You don't want to squeeze the crap out of, like, a woman's hand or whatever. But anyway. Okay, so... let's see here. All right, let's take another look here at the sticky dudes. So DJT continues its bounce. Palantir's continuing its breakout. Robin the Hood is getting stuck a little at 6.5. BTC, I think we're gonna break 63 here today. We just got rejected at 63, but that's okay. Apple had a little heart attack again. Enphase, let's go! It's on 113 again! I called it! Woo! I think that's just the start, though. I ain't selling. Oh, let's go! Look at that Enphase. I told you 260 was gonna break out. In this stream, I said, it's gonna have some selling pressure at 260. Don't worry. That's gonna be normal. It's gonna break out of it. Boom! How are my options looking right now? How are them tendies look? I sent that alert to the course members in the course member Steam. Holy shit. It's up $170,000. All right. Good thing I bought the dip on the Enphase one. The Enphase one is almost back to a good place. Okay, good. So... what's this? Oh, Rivian's coming back too. Nice. Let's go. Is Trade Desk doing well too? I see someone call. Oh yeah, I gotta answer the super chats. Oh yeah, Trade Desk 101. Let's go. All right, let me look at the supers here. Lauren's Celebrity Crush. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, duh, the Titanic guy. DiCaprio. That's an obvious one. Why do you think our first son is named Jack? But, all right. So, Kevin, aside from recent events, what do you think of Biden staying in his role? Can he retain the option to pardon Hunter? Well, sure, but, Biden staying in his role loses him the election. It basically just guarantees a Trump win. So whatever, you know, it's on the Democrats, I suppose. That's their choice. Skeptic my peach. I don't know what that means. It's important to question him on the shooter being as his company's. I don't know what you're talking about either. Answer that one. Elon's support of Trump is bullish because Trump won't be as anti-EV. That's the thesis, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the thesis. Yeah. All right. This is fun. I enjoy this. This is great. So we've done really well here, I think. This is very good. So, look, listen, JPOW talks in 2 hours, okay? I got a lot to do in the next 2 hours, but I'm going to cover JPOW. This guy he's going to pump this stuff up. I'm so convinced on it, I'm putting my account on it. And again, if I'm wrong, oh well, it's just money. But I'm pretty confident we're gonna get a fat pump it up here, a thick one, really nice pump it up. One of these.
Nice PP.
See, that's too low now. And then we're gonna get
V-shaped recovery. The Nike swoosh buying spree.
Bye.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. I don't know, it's probably time to go to the course member live stream. But I think we gotta look at a baby first. Let's get a baby. Let's say hi to a baby. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a baby. Sarah's texting. She's not paying attention.
We'll weigh on either investing decisions or, Mike, I'll go to you first, on consumer spending decisions.
Yeah. You know, we've seen, a little bit of this in some, I think, business surveys. I think in the ISM there was some connecting business activity, investment activity. So it's possible. I think maybe lesser risk for the consumer, but I do think for business capital spending, this could weigh on spending until some of these electoral uncertainties are resolved and we know what kind of policy environment we're in next year. So I do think this is an interesting issue for thinking about the second half of the year. But again, more on CapEx.
Right. And Chris, are clients saying, I just want to wait?
No, clients aren't saying, I want to wait. They're saying, how do I play this? When do I play the rotation? What we're seeing from the consumer is
This is our big boy. He's the one who crushed all of the room out of Summer and Violet's space in the womb. And he also hasn't burped yet from his little bottle. He's the only boy with 4 girls. Right? What's up, dude? This guy's huge. This guy's like the equivalent of, let's see, born February, 2 months preemie, so April, what would that make him? April to July, 4 to 7. I mean, he's obviously more than 3 months old. He's technically 5 months old. But he's somewhere in there, and he was 2 months preemie. And what's up, dude? You shocked at all the lights? Dude, he makes the funniest faces. He got this giant head. And then the other ones were born in October, and this guy's almost as big as the October babies. What do you think, dude? You've never been in here, have you? I feel like I've taken you in here before, but I'm not sure. What's up, buddy? You want to tell stories? Or are you just going to vomit on me? Yeah. Anyway, Okay, good. So, yeah, we're going to push the button. We'll head over to the course member live stream. Oh, look at Enphase. It's under -5%. And again, expect volatility. There's some good trades going on in here. A lot of good things. Trade desk is moving. Tesla's obviously moving. A lot of big days over, a lot of big things to pay attention to here. I think Bitcoin will come rally into Powell as well. But for now, let's go ahead and push the button. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate and actively manage ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Alrighty. We will see y'all in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. Crazy in here, isn't it? Alrighty. See you, folks. Bye.